Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show.
Vitalik clapping, Vitalik impressed, happy and clapping. Vitalik is impressed. Vitalik clapping, 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 clapping. Vitalik clapping, 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 clapping.
Vitalik is clapping. Why is he clapping? Why is he clapping? Well, he just found his new favorite blockchain, and that's in Bitcoin Cash, because Ethereum can't scale, or it's gonna scale in like a year, I guess. But until then, he's gonna use Bitcoin Cash. So what's up, people? Welcome to the show. I see you. I got DLive open. I got YouTube open. Man, all these freaking different places I stream to. I think I'm on Periscope right now too. Let me see what's up with that. That's just like the Twitter one. Say hello to the broadcaster and their viewers. Hey broadcaster, what's up? But yeah, we're just chatting. It should be a pretty chill day today. Nothing too crazy. Nothing too crazy. But yeah, let's just hop into some news real quick, and then we'll kind of get her all going. I suppose you watch music because I'm kind of boring. So yeah, here we go. So yes, if you didn't know, there was Trump's Treasury Secretary had a press conference on cryptocurrencies, and basically this followed the Trump tweets that were about Bitcoin and how he didn't like them because they were unregulated and basically drug people use them. And also it was basically a huge dig at Libra, and that's kind of just rehashed in this. I have some mental markers in my head of some kind of key points this guy made, but it's basically just like, hey, Bitcoin's for illegal things, and Facebook, well, they just need to be regulated. So we'll watch a little bit here.
Recently related to the regulation and the treatment of digital assets in cryptocurrencies. I'd like to give some brief explanatory remarks about what we've been doing on this front, since there's lots of interest, and then I will open it up to questions. Last month, the Libra Association, a consortium of 28 businesses, including a Facebook subsidiary, announced that it is developing a cryptocurrency called the Libra. The Treasury Department has expressed very serious concerns that Libra could be misused by money launderers and terrorist financiers. Cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin have been exploited to support billions of dollars of illicit activity like cybercrime, tax evasion, extortion, ransomware, illicit drugs, human trafficking. Many players have attempted.
So yeah, Bitcoin is for illegal things, right? He goes on and talks about kind of how Libra is like, basically, I mean, they're not gonna come out and say it, but all these cryptocurrencies are basically a threat to the Federal Reserve, and that's kind of why Bitcoin is a thing, right? Is because the banks are on a brink of bailout, or the chancellor is on the break. Wow, I can't even think of the damn thing that was in the first block, but you know what I mean. Yeah, he's talking about like illegal things, and then you have the JP Morgan cruise ship, or not cruise ship, a chase ship that was busted with like 15,000 kilos of cocaine, and it was tied to their asset management unit. So basically, but if you don't think banks are doing illegal things, well, I got something to tell you. I just saw this thing in, it was forwarded into CoinSpice, but basically it was this. I'm gonna pull it up real quick because it's just kind of freaking insane. I didn't have it queued up before, but basically it's this chick or this woman, whatever, who was like tracing $24 trillion, I think it was, basically on the black market of banks, or it's basically like the hidden financial sector of the U.S. government and the banks. And basically the U.S. government has like an accounting system that's in the light, and then they have a dark accounting system. Anyways, long story short, I have not had time to look at this because it's literally 214 pages. But I did kind of read the summary, and It's basically how the U.S. government kind of just funnels money to itself, and so who would have thought they do that, right? Who would have thought the U.S. government messes with the money without telling anybody? That's just darn silly. You know what would control that? A deflationary asset such as Bitcoin. So the White House still hates Bitcoin. They especially hate Libra. Hashtag ban the dollar. That's used for a lot of illegal things. I know a lot of people who have used it to buy drugs. I know a lot of people that do that. Ban the dollar. Buy the real Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, of course. And so what kind of this one is funny. There was an interview with Epstein, and if you didn't know, I mean, I don't know where you've been, but it's this multi-billionaire who was accused of child trafficking or human trafficking and basically being a general pedophilia. And so this is his. Let me see. Sorry, I saw this earlier. I kind of coming off on a little tangent here, and so it was basically just it wasn't a video interview. It was a text interview, and he says Bitcoin is not a currency, but it works as a store of value. So Epstein is a BTC maximalist. So apparently Bitcoin is not a currency, even though it's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. So that's where that guy's headspace is. So so we'll kind of get into the main meat of tonight. Everybody loves meat. Well, not everybody. You like vegan girls, but basically, this is the article that Vitalik Buterin came out with. And so basically, Ethereum sucks at scaling really bad because just all of the smart contracts and all of the data required to run all these smart contracts has to be validated by like everybody, every node. I believe the current figure, it's like $20,000 to run a node or something. Like it's in like the tens of thousands or something to properly run a node. It might even be completely impossible to run it, to like sync an Ethereum node from scratch at this point, just because there's so much data flowing through it, because it's all this computations, right? It's Turing complete, which means it can basically be a computer itself, and it just is a lot of resources. And so they're looking to go into Ethereum 2.0. And if you didn't know what Ethereum 2.0 is, it's basically their plan to scale Ethereum, and this includes proof of stake, and it also includes kind of making the transactions and just the amount of data less. So we'll go through his tweets right here real quick. Shouldn't you be busy asking us questions? Oh yeah, because Tor. Oh yeah, I was blocked by Tor, so I gotta go to my incognito tab. Give me a second here. All right, here we go. So yeah, we'll get into that in a little bit. So let me find his first tweet. Wasn't. I thought I had it pulled up. Guess it was just on his page. Anyways, we'll just go through this real quick. I kind of give a quick overview of what he was talking about. And stored indefinitely. Yes, you got to use the data from the contracts. And so we'll kind of go through what this is. There's a large space of quite powerful and effective scalability solutions that rely on non-scalable computation layer, i.e. the current Ethereum chain suffices, plus a scalable data layer. The general principle of these techniques is that they use interactive computation techniques, e.g. TrueBit, we'll kind of go on that a little bit, to compute the state on the Ethereum side, crucially relying on the data availability guaranteed by the data layer. So basically, sum it up, there's a data layer and there is a computation layer, and Ethereum has both really. But Bitcoin is mainly a data layer because it's not Turing complete, it's not its own computer. And so in the longer term, 1+ year out, the scalable data layer is going to be Ethereum 2.0 because it is planned for 10 megabytes per second data throughput is much higher than that of existing blockchain. That number right there is kind of fucking insane, right? Like 10 megabytes per second for a blockchain. Good luck, I guess. I mean, I guess you kind of need proof of work for that type of stuff. But anyways, to bridge this gap until Ethereum 2.0, he proposes using other blockchains for the data layer. And so he says Bitcoin Cash arguably fits the bill perfectly for a few reasons. And so it has high data throughput, 32 megabytes per 600 seconds, which is about 53 kilobytes per second compared to Ethereum, which is only 8. So that is like about 10 times as much as Ethereum in its current state. But that would be 153, that'd be 100 times less than Ethereum 2.0 whenever that was come out. Very low fees, of course, because BTC would be prohibitively expensive. And basically, they already have the machinery to verify Bitcoin Cash inside of Ethereum, thanks to this BTC relay. And so this was already tooled for BTC, but since Bitcoin Cash is obviously a fork of Bitcoin Cash, you can kind of just use the tools that are already there. You just have to change a few things, like K point to this chain instead of that one. They're basically the same chain. Might be some small differences. I mean, when you start getting into the future changes, such as like Schnorr signatures and stuff like that, there might have to be some other type of changes, but it's not too drastic yet. It's still kind of fairly close in code base wise, so it'll be quite easy. They just need to repoint it to the BCH chain and turn it back on. And it's also quite cheap to verify BCH blocks compared to like even Ethereum Classic blocks. Excuse me 1 second. And so he does cite the main weakness of Bitcoin Cash chain is its 10-minute block time. And so this seems unlikely to change, which, yeah, it probably won't change just because it's a simple fact for orphans. And however, there's active interest in the BCH community on strengthening zero confirmation payments using techniques like Avalanche pre-consensus. And if you hang out in Bitcoin Cash communities at all, this is kind of a main point of disagreement right now is pre-consensus in itself. And so pre-consensus is just like a funny word in itself because it's like saying you have consensus before you have consensus. And so it's basically a consensus on what transaction will be included in the next block. But it's up to the miners and the proof of work to put these transactions into the block. It's like they can do what they want when they find a block. They can put whatever they want in the block. But pre-consensus says, hey, you're going to put this into a block. And so it's this very interesting kind of debate that we have right now, because a lot of people think Avalanche itself, since it's node-based, full node-based, is that it's kind of moves towards proof of stake a little bit. And I mean, that's what Ethereum's going to. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any other like pre-consensus type of things, because like, is it really consensus if it's pre-consensus, you know? So it's this really kind of strange abstract debate at the moment. But anyways, basically it's to help prevent double spends, right? And so help just make zero comp the best it can be, which I think we all want. But I don't think zero comp is particularly broken at the moment. But again, I'm no dev, so I don't know, like the margins of error. Is it like worth it to kind of degrade what proof of work means in order to have this more secure zero comp? We'll see how it plays out. It's not coming anytime soon. I know there are people working on it, but we'll see how it goes. Also, miners can reject a block depending on whether it adheres to the pre-consensus system they are participating in. Right. So like if you are, say there's 3 miners and miner 2 and 3 agree on something that the pre-consensus agrees on, but miner 1 doesn't agree on the pre-consensus, miners 2 and 3 could reject that block and just continue working on their own block. And I mean, that's just how Bitcoin mining works, how hashing power works. Whoever does the most hash can do what they want, as long as people follow them eventually. So yeah. What's up, XV? I see you joined my Telegram chat. Thanks for joining that. That's key. That's key to really following what's going on here. But yeah, and so on Ethereum chain, they randomly select N proposers. We incentivize people to send small BCH transactions to these proposers. And so we require in the layer protocols that for data on the BCH chain to be valid, it must include as one of its inputs a particular UTXO that sends a small BCH payment to them. So yeah, it's basically just like, hey, you're going to send out a Bitcoin Cash transaction with some Ethereum data in it. So another natural alternative is the Ethereum Classic chain, as it is much quicker 14-second block time. However, it has lower scalability, 8 kilobytes per second than BCH, which I believe is the same thing as Ethereum. Yeah, it is, which is kind of funny. It's like a mirror, right? I mean, it's the Bitcoin Cash to Ethereum, if you will. And verifying ETC proof of work is much harder. So I'm not sure which algo ETC runs on. Wait, isn't it just, anyways, I'm not sure exactly what that means. There are changes that ETC could adopt to tip the balance, reducing the gas cost for call data, would increase its data rates. And so the call data is basically the smart contract's way to get information. And so apparently that costs a lot in gas. And so they could just reduce that, and it would increase its data rate. And adding fly client support, I did look up what fly client support means, and it's basically like, man, what was it again? It's basically like some form of SPV, but it's like a more advanced SPV wallet or something. I'd have to look at it again to see. And it could reduce gas costs. And so, what the hell? What the hell? Why are you doing this, Vitalik? We're a peer-to-peer cash system. But, I mean, if you pay the transaction fee, I guess you can do it, right? And so this is kind of where we go to the, ETH is the Bitcoin Cash to ETC. ETC is the real Ethereum. Okay. Whatever you say. That's not my real Ethereum. Okay, yeah, so here we go. And so, of course, everybody gets mad because everybody hates Bitcoin Cash. And so Vitalik proposes to store Ethereum blockchain data in Bitcoin Cash. Terrible idea. Nobody uses Bcash. That's fucking wrong. I do. Fuck out of here. And has the same mining algo as Bitcoin, making it extremely vulnerable to 51% attacks. Well, yes, this is true. It's been shown that miners will switch over to defend Bitcoin Cash in event of pending doom, if you will, like we saw with the Great Hash War with Bitcoin SV. And so, yes, obviously there's less hash power on BCH, but like using that as a reason is kind of like, it's an edge case. It's an edge case. And so he brings up, it's only $20,000 to 1 hour attack. But yeah, if people see that attack coming, they're going to switch their miners over, and we got ourselves another hash war, which is really like, there wasn't really one. I mean, there's kind of chain races every now and again, I suppose, but the one with SV was definitely the most publicized, and so yeah, and so anyways, he's talking shit, and then so Vitalik did actually say he could be a great choice for this and better than BCH with shorter block times, and then so I just need to Google fly client is real quick because I forgot what it was. Give me a second here. Bitch, I got that Bitcoin Cash. Holy fuck, that's loud. Sorry.
Thumbs up, unicorn face.
thumbs up, unicorn face. All right, let me turn that down real quick. Thanks, Tao. I appreciate it. I thought I turned it down earlier, but goddamn, my computer volume is up really high, so that was probably part of it. Bitch, I got that Bitcoin Cash. And so, let me find fly client real quick. So yeah, I had a better link somewhere. What's up, Am I got any questions so far? We are going to go over BSV a little bit, so that'll be a good time. That'll be a grand old time. All right, so here's fly client. I think this is their white paper. Yeah, super light client. So it's like lighter than a fly, right? Lighter than a fly. Fly client. Super light client. Okay, so I read the abstract. The rest I was like, okay, this is a little bit over my head. Okay, so they talk about SPV. They offer light clients, known as SPV clients, which download only the block headers. And so basically it says the storage and bandwidth requirements still increase linearly with the chain length. And so for Ethereum and SPV client needs to download and store more than 3.6 gigabytes of data. And so that's like a light client. That's kind of a lot, I suppose. I mean, if you want to it's 4 gigabytes. It's still way less than the actual chain. And so it's a novel transaction verification protocol. So basically, instead of linearly, like this is as much as my understanding could go, instead of increasing linearly, it increases logarithmically. So it increases exponentially the other way. And so it's apparently efficient as hell. But, as Ethereum goes, let's see, where's this roadmap right here? I think this would be fly client. No, shard. So basically they're turning sharding, which provides the data. And so if you didn't know what sharding is basically breaks up blocks of data into multiple different blocks. And then certain nodes only have to process parts of the block. And then you can kind of create the whole picture based on the block headers, if you have like kind of sub block headers. Basically, you don't have to verify the whole chain, just part of it, and everybody does that, and cryptographically it all works out. And so that's still being worked on, and until then, we're going to use Bitcoin Cash. And so, yeah, I was like trying to kind of wrap my head all around this. I should have read Mastering Ethereum, I suppose. Libra is a real BTC. Wasn't actually obnoxiously loud for us, just moderately. Okay, cool. But yeah, basically this is the true bit, which he talks about, right? It's about the interactive computation techniques, e.g. true bit. I should probably rename the show to something about Vitalik. What do you think? Probably. Send 2 tips. One before Tau and one after, neither has shown. All right, we need to figure this out. All right. Here, I will open up Electron Cash. Because I've been on the same screen. Damn it, Pox. Pox like knows this exists, but he doesn't know how or why it doesn't work. So I'll message you. Let me open my. I'm just gonna open my wallet just in case I do get other ones. So let me see what we got here. So, but yeah, in my last show I did send half of it to Jaja, like I said. So I think we got like $60 in donations, which was really cool. And that was really neat. So let's see. Still synchronizing. So yeah, send her $30. She deserves it. Yeah, it's stressing him out, poor dude. Boxed, your baby. Yeah, I did actually get. Okay, yeah, I see your 31 cents ones. I don't think I have the minimum on, because there's like a minimum thing that you can do. I don't think I have that on. Let me just check real quick to make sure though. Let me see. Edit profile. I don't think it shouldn't show me anything. Yeah, so I have the minimum donation set to $0, so I'm not quite sure. I did get your 231 cents though. Yes. Yeah, so basically the bug is just like the notification. So it does go through every time, so don't worry about it. So yeah, anyways, back to it. TrueBit interactive computation. So it's basically how the data layer and the computation layer all comes together. And that does that on TrueBit, which is, so you have off-chain over here. And so TrueBit, this thing, basically the file system would be Bitcoin Cash, and the incentive layer would be the Ethereum. So just look at this thing, and then you understand it, right, guys? So a scalable verification. Oh, this is TrueBit. So yeah, so should Vitalik do this? Should he do it? What will it cost him? Well, if he just put in hashes, thanks for lemon. At least the Lino works every time. So what should we do about Vitalik? And I say let him come. Let him pay the transaction fee, right? And so we'll talk about kind of the other extreme end of the spectrum. So you have obviously BTC, which only has a 80 byte operaturn limit. And operaturn is an additional text field that's on top of a transaction, and so you can do interesting things with it, like store files. And so, but if you store these files in this operaturn is prunable, which means that miners do not have to keep operaturns forever if they do not want to. So if somebody, like in BSV, sends a 100 kilobyte operaturn, which is what their operaturn limit is now, Bitcoin Cash is 220. If they send a 100 kilobyte transaction, they can essentially just like not keep it if they don't want to, because it's not part of the actual validation. It's not part of the consensus rules. They could just drop it because the money that they sent with that operaturn isn't burned. It's just like there, and that's the only thing that really matters to the consensus protocol is the money and not the message. And so everybody's favorite Ryan Charles, shows 12 examples of large image files that he uploaded to the blockchain and linked to a YouTube video that explains how the process works. And so basically, he uploaded a 100 kilobyte file, cost 7 cents. And so this was March. This was March. Oh, come on, don't be this. Come on, don't do this to me. This is March when the price of BSV was, I think it was $60. Let's check real quick. And so basically, since transaction costs are tied to how much the coin is. Jesus Christ, look at that candle. It's tied to how much the coin is worth. So we'll go to March right here. Yeah, about $65, and now it is 120. If you want to just go to the peak, that's 1, 2, 3, 4. It'd be 4 times as expensive if BSV was at 250. And so basically his 100 kilobyte file at peak would essentially have cost about a quarter to store on the chain. And so on the chain in a way that could be pruned. So you basically have to rely on miners to store your stuff. And basically the common response is that the miners, I should say a node operator, it does not have to be a miner, it'd be somebody who runs a node and keeps a full history of the blockchain. They could provide a service that keeps all of the op returns forever and then charge for people to retrieve it if they so choose. And so that would guarantee that your file is there. But yeah, 100 kilobyte file for a quarter. And so for example, how big is 100 kilobytes when it comes to files? Well, I'm streaming at 3,500 kilobytes per second. So every frame of this video is bigger than 100 kilobytes. So, or bytes, bits. I always get them fucking confused. But anyways, that's not a lot. That's not a lot. If you're trying to store video on chain, good fucking look. So yeah, a 5 megabyte image or file will cost roughly $3.50. And again, this is at $60 BSV prices and at 1 Satoshi per byte, which is the minimum relay fee. And so there is a minimum fee to use the network. I actually, you know what? I think BSV might have it a little bit lower because there's like 2-3 miners. All right, what do you got for me? Sleep with that chart on your pillow, permissionless system. They have to verify the signature. Yes. They can store a hash of the data. Right. So they can store a hash of the data in that op return, but they don't have to like store exactly what is in the op return. Yes, I have seen your video. Can you store data on the blockchain Bitcoin? Do you want to watch it? We can watch it at the end. How about that? And so yeah, the 5 megabyte file is right here. So it's on the blockchain, everybody. It costs $3.50 to do it. So at peak prices, that would have been like $14. So Ryan's trip to Paris. Right? It's Paris? I don't know. Either way, that's a lot. I pay $10 a month for 2 terabytes on Google Drive. So, but yeah, they like, so basically if you want to do so do you want to store everything on the blockchain? Probably not, because miners do have to, basically everybody in the network has to at least validate the transaction. So they have to process it. If it's a 100 kilobyte transaction, they have to look at it, they have to process it, they have to go through it. And I mean, really, if the miners didn't want to include that big of transaction in their block, they would not have to. So you might have to pay more because it's just like, hey, that's just clogging the system, you know? And so, I mean, $15 is a lot for like one transaction, but you know, it's just not practical when there's just better solutions around. It's just not. So yeah, here's his other photos. Oh yeah, so I did load that photo earlier, and it took me like probably a minute to load. Like it took forever. I think it's in my cache now in my internet browser, so it like loaded like that. But yeah, I just clicked the link, and I'm just still waiting for it to load. So apparently blockchain storage is not fast. So we're just gonna wait and see. There it goes. There it goes. Nice picture. Nice picture. Let's try another one. Let's try photo. Take me to photo 11. love blockchain storage. Jesus Christ. So this is why you probably want to pay somebody to store your files on the blockchain, because Jesus Christ, this is taking forever. Like, this isn't a one-off either. Like, I did this a couple other times with just different photos. I don't really see the benefit. So yeah, what would a benefit be of uploading to the blockchain, right? And so you would call it decentralized because a lot of different people would have your file. They can see what it is unless you encode it, which, I mean, you can encode it, so that's not a huge issue. I don't really think. The advantages of doing it over, like, it's decentralized, I guess. Oh, there it goes. All right, we found it. Woohoo! Blockchain storage is the future. Okay, so yeah. I think we have a guest here. Let's see if I'm gonna call you on Telegram, okay? So I hope you're ready. Yeah, I clicked that a long fucking time ago. Alright, I'm trying to get you in here. You know who you are. Check your nope. Don't want to work. It says waiting. Alright, I think we did a different one here. Give me 1 second. I thought that was gonna work and it didn't. So bear with me here. Let's listen to this dude talk about shit.
Attempted to use cryptocurrencies to fund their malign behavior. This is indeed a national security issue. The United States has been at the forefront of regulating entities that provide cryptocurrency. We will not allow digital asset service providers to operate in the shadows and will not tolerate the use of the cryptocurrencies in support of illicit activities. Treasury has been very clear to Facebook, Bitcoin users, and other providers of digital financial services that they must implement the same anti-money laundering and countering financing of terrorism, known as AML-CFT, safeguards as traditional financial institutions. Money transmitters of cryptocurrency must comply with the relevant Bank Secrecy Act obligations, known as BSA, and register with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, known as FinCEN. Many people are not familiar with FinCEN. It is a bureau of the U.S. Department of Treasury. FinCEN's mission is to safeguard the financial system from illicit use, combat money laundering.
We're gonna watch Bitcoin Out Loud. Bitcoin Out Loud. Do you store shit on the blockchain? Should you store stuff on the blockchain? Hey, Bearcat League with Bitcoin Cash for the word. It's very nice. Like, sucking at video games. You don't suck, bro. You don't suck. You're getting better.
In a previous video, I argued that non-cash uses of the blockchain are both viable and legitimate. The blockchain is not, however, a miracle invention that makes every single possible electronic service or application better, or more secure, or even more transparent. Though the blockchain may be revolutionary, its use cases are inherently limited by its nature. As a distributed timestamp server, one of the ways the blockchain provides utility outside of its electronic cash system is by allowing you to prove that you are in possession of certain data at the time a block is published. That means that you could prove, for example, that you were the original creator of an idea, be it a song.
All right, we got a guest in here. Everybody, welcome Lichango to the chat. Welcome Lichango.
How's it going?
How's it going, man? How you doing? How you doing?
Oh, hanging in there.
Oh, hanging in there. So I heard you had something to say about storing stuff on the blockchain. What do you think about?
Just kind of some.
What do you think about Vitalik's doing his thing?
I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea. I think really what it comes down to is first you kind of have to weigh what is actually worth storing on a blockchain. Of course, that can be different for different people, you know. Ryan might think putting his vacation pics on the chain is a good use of that money. But the thing is most people aren't going to do that. So, I mean, you really have to find what, a bulk of people are actually going to find use for, because or at least the only things I can think of as far as real uses for data storage on a blockchain, which I'm not saying that blockchains aren't for data storage. I think they are. I think payments is one of those types of data that are very well suited for it. But, those two aspects I would say are, first off, censorship resistance and immutability and transparency. I guess those kind of go hand in hand. So if you need those two things and you think that the going rate to put that data on chain is worth it, then you'll do it. So like I said, for some people, maybe they think putting their vacation pics for, $10 a pop or whatever on the chain, maybe they think that's worth it. But most people aren't going to find that value. But except Vitalik or people using Ethereum, they may find that value to put contracts on a blockchain, which I don't think is a bad idea. I think that's something worth putting on a blockchain, something that needs to be immutable. It's contract, So in that case scenario, I think that's not a bad idea.
Right. Yeah, I mean, of course, it's like, if you can pay for it, right? Like, you said, just who is going to pay for something like that, right? And so, should we store everything on the blockchain? I don't think we should, but like, can we? Yeah, if you wanted to, I guess. Like, right.
I mean, when it comes down to it, if someone's paying the fee, they're paying the fee.
Right.
It's not spam. It's it's worth it to them, or maybe it's just a temporary novelty factor. Like say, no, I can do this, or maybe it's a way to push a certain narrative. To say, hey, this is what this is for. I'm going to temporarily spend a lot of money pushing this narrative to maybe pump my bags.
Right.
Like that too.
It's all about pumping the bags, right? It's all about pumping the bags. The one thing you did say about is transparency, which, of course, because what you put on the chain is available to the public. And like I said earlier, it's transparent unless you encode it yourself and kind of have the key to it. And then if you lose the key, you're kind of shit out of luck. But transparency is a huge one. That's why they put white papers for tokens and stuff like that, just in op return, just so people have a record of that it existed at one point. And so I think the storage issue only really becomes a thing when you are kind of loading up the kilobytes worth in the op return. But do you have any kind of comments on storing it long term?
Right. Well, so first off, going back to short term, say, so the cost for making a transaction on chain at the very minimum is going to be the miners, right? Because first off, the miner actually mines the block is going to need to mine that data, and then anyone trying to build on top of that block is also going to need to validate that data, right? Mm-hmm. So at the very least, that's what you're dealing with. So people that, for some reason, some people have got the idea in their head that a distributed ledger can somehow be cheaper to store data than a conventional database or, cloud storage, which I don't think that makes any sense, because like I said, at the very least, you're going to have, the miner who mines the block and then those miners competing, to validate that block and try to mine on top of it. So I think it's literally against the laws of physics to make a blockchain cheaper to store data on than a conventional system. So it's definitely not for all data. It's for whatever data you want. It's for whatever you want to pay the fee on, but most people are not going to pay that fee unless it's something they need to be transparent or censorship resistant. Yeah. Which for payments, it's such a small amount of data for payments, so it's worth it. You're paying a fraction of a penny to send some money. Hey, that's not a bad deal, right? Mm-hmm. But storing a music video, it costs you $400 and 8 hours to upload. I don't know if that's worth it.
Right, because the only chain you could really do that on now is BSV anyways, just for the simple fact if its op return is 100 kilobytes, but then if it's 400, megabytes are like, that's just so many transactions. It's just split up between a bunch, and it'd be hard. You'd be hard pressed to like make sure that it's stored forever, right? But yeah, it is. So I don't know if it's like completely immutable. I'd say yeah, it's censorship resistant, no doubt, and definitely transparent. But as far as like immutability goes, it's op-return doesn't seem like the way to go for that. So
op-return no, right? Op-return no. I was just kind of saying in general,
right?
You know, storage on chain in general. But yeah, op-return, since it's not a consensus rule to keep that. Yeah, I mean, I think for something like, say, if, you know, people using Ethereum were going to use BCH for data storage purposes, they would keep archival nodes, right? Because that's the whole point. That's why they're using it.
Yeah.
You know, to reference those contracts that they store on the BCH chain. So, I mean, if you've actually got a point to put into, you know, the data on chain, and you'll probably keep that data. You know, you'll probably run a node to keep that data.
Right. But then what's the point of putting it on the blockchain if you're keeping it yourself already? You know, so.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, there is kind of a point though. Like I said, if you're expecting, you know, say in Ethereum's case, for multiple participants to keep that data as well, because everyone's using it for that purpose, then I mean, I guess that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Cool, man. Well, thanks for hopping on. I'm going to wrap this up here, but I'm just going to stay rolling live. I'm just going to tell myself to, I'm going to need to prove myself that this music video existed at exactly this time and was under my control. Love the news desk. Thanks, Super Nerd. Thank you. But I'm telling myself to cut